We're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 15, starting with text 30, 10, 15, 30. This is Dhanuka just entered on stage. And doesn't say here in the Bhagavatam, but in other renderings of this, other scriptural texts, he was sleeping. And the sound of the tal fruits falling woke up Dhanuka. And he came roaring out. Who's taking my tal fruits? Stronger than ordinary devatas. He released terrifying sounds. He turned here and there, looking for a weak spot to strike with his feet, since he was wicked. Sanatana Goswami writes, the demon struck Balaram forcefully on his chest since he was strong. The demon brayed with a dissonant sound because he was a donkey. He ran in front of Balaram and turned his backside to him in order to kick Balaram with his two hind legs. That is how donkeys fight. He is called Kala, or rascal, because of the bad actions of the wicked being. Text 31. Moving again toward Lord Balaram, O king, the furious ass situated himself with his back toward the Lord, then screaming in rage, the demon hurled his two hind legs at him. Purport, BBT. The word upakroshta indicates an ass, and also one who is crying out nearby. Thus it is indicated herein that the powerful Dhanuka made horrible, angry sounds. And the commentaries say the same thing. He turned his back to Balaram and again kicked. Sanatana Goswami. The donkey came close, braying, upakroshta, turned his back to Balaram and again kicked. O king! Shukadev comforts the king, who was saddened, worried about Balaram because of his prema. Or the demon was shining because of revealing his unlimited strength in anger. Text 32. Lord Balaram seized Dhanuka by his hooves, whirled him about with one hand, and threw him into the top of a palm tree. The violent wheeling motion killed the demon. And commentary, Vishwanath. Balaram seized Dhanukasura by the hooves, prapadayo, and whirled him around, threw him in a tall tree. Previously, he let the demon strike him in order to show that it did not hurt him, since he did not even pay attention to it. Sanatana Goswami writes, Balaram let the donkey kick him on the chest to fool him. By this, he showed the donkey's weakness and his own strength. The demon could not succeed in kicking him again, because Balaram grabbed his 2 feet, which were propelled to kick him. The palm tree, Trinaraja, had a thick trunk and was very tall. The next verse describes Mahatala, the giant tala tree. He threw the demon on the tree to please the cowherds, to show his strength and the demon's feebleness. He made the tree fall down easily. Text 33. Lord Balaram threw the dead body of Dhanukasura into the tallest palm tree in the forest, and when the dead demon landed in the treetop, the tree began shaking. The giant palm tree, causing a tree by its side to also shake, broke under the weight of the demon. The neighboring tree caused yet another tree to shake, and this one, yet another tree, which also began shaking in this way. Many trees in the forest shook and broke. Purport. Lord Balaram threw the demon Dhenuka so violently into the great palm tree that a chain reaction was unleashed, and many towering palm trees shook and then broke with a great crashing sound. And commentary is very short, saying the same thing. Sanatana Goswami writes, struck by the donkey demon's body, the great tall tree shook and caused neighboring trees to shake and break. Other trees shook and broke other trees. Chanyam chaparam. Text 34. Because of Lord Balaram's pastime of throwing the body of an ass demon into the top of the tallest palm tree, all the trees began shaking and striking against one another as if blown about by powerful winds. And commentary says the same thing. Sanatana Goswami. When the nearby trees broke, even the distant trees shook. Balasya indicates that Balaram was extremely strong. This was indicated previously in verse 22. This is 34. With the word Maha Sattva. Text 35. My dear Parikshit, that Lord Balaram killed Dhenukasura is not such a wonderful thing, considering that he, Balaram, is the unlimited personality of Godhead, the controller of the entire universe. Indeed, the entire cosmos rests upon him, just as a woven cloth rests upon its own horizontal and vertical threads. That same horizontal and vertical threads language is elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, otam and protam. You know, in a cloth, you don't see it because it looks just like a cloth, but there's horizontal and vertical, otam, protam. It's, you know, so the threads itself are the cloth. It says that the cosmos rests upon him as a woven cloth rests upon its own horizontal and vertical threads. But the cloth is the threads, not just rest upon the threads. The cloth is the threads. And that's a similar understanding. This is a Bhagavatam understanding or Vaishnava understanding about the relationship between Krishna and the creation, the oneness and difference. Achintya beta beta tattva conception. It comes again and again and again. It's certainly in the Sankhya section where it's teaching the philosophical foundation, but many places. When it goes into this description of the personality of Godhead, in many cases it's also describing Sambandha, his relationship with the creation. His relationship with the creation is a oneness and difference. So it is resting upon him, indicates, like what Prabhupada says, it's not like he's Charles Atlas holding up big biceps and he's holding up the earth. Everything's resting on him. Not like that. But it's his energies. A way that Prabhupada likes to explain is the energy of the sun. He goes, many classes, he goes into a whole thing about how powerful is the sun's energy, and the sun's energy sustains the universe. If the sun were to withdraw its energy, it doesn't, but if it were to withdraw its energy, the universe would cease existing. It's existing on the strength of the energy of the sun. And over again, in the Vedic conception, the sun is such a planet that other planets derive energy from the sun. Their life is sustained by the sun. Even he speaks that their motion is a motion propelled by the sun. I mean, there's something in Vedic cosmology. This is getting a little bit distant from this, but it's an interesting idea. We'll take 5 minutes on Vedic cosmology. We'll come back. Many of you know and like the Dhruva Maharaj story. So after Dhruva became king and lived for so many thousand years as the king, where did he go? He went to Dhruvaloka. Where's Dhruvaloka? Dhruvaloka is situated in the universe above the heavenly planets and below the upper 4 planetary systems, such as Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Brahmaloka. So below that is Dhruvaloka. And all the other planets are below Dhruvaloka. So the planets that move are below Dhruvaloka, and those planets below Dhruvaloka are circumambulating these, vertically speaking, they're circumambulating Dhruvaloka like you circumambulate Tulsi plant. With your right side to the Tulsi plant, you circumambulate the Tulsi plant. So the planets are circumambulating. They're vertical, and some are closer vertically, some are below vertically, but they're circumambulating Dhruvaloka. And it's said in the 5th canto Bhagavatam, there's ropes of air that tie prana, that tie the planets to Dhruvaloka. Similar to what Dhruva did when he was doing his austerities and controlling his life air, the movement of the air in the universe stopped. So that's a power that Dhruva had. So that power is also used when he goes to Dhruvaloka. So what exists before these ropes of air? It doesn't say, but there's ropes of air. We don't see ropes of air, but there's ropes of air, according to the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, and they're moved by wind. And as the wind moves the ropes of air, the planets move. That's the circumambulation movement. And what creates the wind is the energy of the sun. Right? Sun, when it moves air because of the heat of the sun. It moves the air. Now the air is, it's in space. It's not the air like, that we're breathing. Not that kind of air. It's another kind of air. Or you can say space, akash. But it's not, anyway. It's a different kind of air. So the sun, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sun is distributing its energy, heat, and light throughout the universe, and that's sustaining the planets in their planetary movements. Anyway, so the sun is a very important planet. And I forgot why I was going into that. Yeah, otam and protam. So those are, as the energy of the sun is maintaining the universe, where does the sun get its energy? You can say in sequences, but ultimately from Krishna. So how powerful is Krishna? And from Krishna comes everything, including the inferior energy that comprises the planets, or as Balaram has said here, that he supports the entire universe. How powerful is Balaram? So to toss a donkey up into the top of a tree is nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. and he is the resting place of the entire cosmic manifestation, just as woven cloth rests upon its own horizontal and vertical threads. So the horizontal and vertical threads, any metaphor that deals with transcendence is going to be incomplete. It's going to give you an indication of something, but it's incomplete. For example, for the thread, where do the materials come from for the threads? It comes from some other source than the thread itself. We say it's cotton. It comes from the cotton plant. Where's the cotton plant get its cotton from? And so it's, the metaphor is limited. But in the case of creation, the source of all energy, it's his own energy. He's supporting the entire cosmic manifestation because it's his energy. As the cloth is made up of two horizontal and vertical threads. Okay, back to the text. Purport. Unfortunate persons cannot appreciate the blissful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. In this connection, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that the Supreme Lord possesses unlimited potency and strength and expressed here by the word Anante. The Lord exhibits a tiny fraction of his power according to the need of a particular situation. Lord Balaram desired to vanquish the gang of demoniac asses who unlawfully seized the Taliban forest, and therefore exhibited just enough divine opulence to easily kill Dhenukasura and the other demons. Jiva Goswami writes, it will be said later, now this is 10th Canto, Chapter 15, later is 10th Canto, Chapter 50, for the Lord who orchestrates the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the three worlds, and who possesses unlimited spiritual qualities, it is hardly amazing that he subdues an opposing party. Still, when the Lord does so, imitating human behavior, sages glorify his acts. Paragraph. It is astonishing the Lord reveals strength which is equally matched by the opponent in his human pastimes, not showing powerful qualities in his pastimes. I think it is not astonishing that the Lord reveals strength which is equally matched by the opponent in his human pastimes, not showing powerful qualities in his pastimes, the unlimited. This is not astonishing because he is Bhagavan endowed with all Shaktis. He is unlimited by the nature of his Swarup, Anante, and he is the Lord of the universe, even though he has a relationship with it, like thread in relation to a cloth. In the example, thread as the cause is different from the effect, the cloth. So here's the similarity. Similarly, the Lord is different from the universe caused by him. He's the source and therefore is connected, but he's different. As the source of the thread is different from the cloth, although they're connected. Calling Balaram Bhagavan is suitable since Balaram is the chief of Krishna's expansions and has a similar position. Sanatan Goswami writes, though this is astonishing to the world, it is not astonishing considering Balaram's real position. His ability to easily kill Dhenuka and throw him in the tree is not astonishing, for he is Bhagavan, who is endowed with all powers, who is unlimited in Shaktis, and thus the Lord of the universe, Jagadishware. The nature of Bhagavan is shown. All this universe is non-different from the avatar of the Lord. So there's non-difference and difference. An example is given. He is interwoven in everything and is not different from it, as a cloth and threads. Or the word Bhagavati, not Bhagavan, Bhagavati is used to show respect for Balaram as the elder brother, or to indicate his omniscience. Ananta means Shesha. He is called Lord of the Universe because he protects the world by holding it on his head. That earth is then explained. It is made of cause and effect. Otam protam. That's what this horizontal and vertical threads, the Sanskrit words for which those are translations is otam protam, but a more literal meaning is cause and effect. We can't. Oh, this is with the Chinese devotees. So here's a little. Krishna is the cause of all causes. And sometimes you'll read, he's both the material and the efficient cause. But he's the cause of those material and efficient causes. What does that mean? The material cause, little lesson in Sanskrit, is called upadan. Upadan means it undergoes transformation. The effect is a transformation of something. So to explain this, the classic explanation is given of making pots. So the pot is like the universe. Did we do this in one of our classes? The pot is like the universe. And then there's the clay, that's the material cause of the pot. Because you can't have a pot without clay. So it's a material cause of the effect. But the upadan cause, or the material cause, undergoes transformation. It's a lump. And that's the material cause making the effect, the pot. And then there's an efficient cause, or instrumental cause. Those two terms are used. Nimitta. And the nimitta, just like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is asking Arjuna to be his nimitta, his instrument. So that's easy. Krishna had the plan. Arjuna is the instrument. There's the result. So he's an instrumental cause, or inefficient cause. So in the example of pots, there's the clay, but you need a pot maker, and you need a potter's wheel, and you need some tools for the potter maker to make the pots. Those three, the potter, the wheel, and the tools, they're the instrumental or efficient cause. But you don't have, even if you have all those things, if you don't have Krishna, you don't have a pot. He's the cause of all causes. He's the cause of the potter. He's the cause of the wheel. He's the cause of the tools. He's the cause of the clay. And he's the cause of the pot. And so these otam protam terms can mean, the two horizontal threads of a cloth, or can mean, in philosophy, it can mean the efficient cause, or nimitta karana, and the upadan karana, and Krishna is the cause of all causes. That's the otam protam. Pretty simple, isn't it? So the language can be a little more complicated. Otam, protam, and upadan, and nimitta, karana, and all those Sanskrit terms. But you put it in the context of making pots, it's really easy to understand. The pot maker can't make a pot unless God made him. He's the cause of all causes. So Balaram is such a cause. And that he is such a cause, he has unlimited potencies. So throwing a Dhenukasura up in the top of a tree, even the tallest tree, effortlessly, or getting kicked in the chest by this powerful donkey that could kill people, had already killed a number of people, that he felt nothing. It's no surprise. I mean, that is to say, for those persons say, oh, this is stories. For the devotee, it's part of the all-powerfulness of Balaram being exhibiting his power and pleasing the cowherd boys. They like. And so he does. And they celebrate. And he celebrates with them, and they take the tall fruits, and it's part of his Leela. But it's also getting rid of his purpose of appearing in this world. Demoniac personalities. He just does it in a fun way. Throws him in the top of a tree. Jiva Goswami writes in Priti Sandarbha, so it gets a little involved. Repetition in the Bhagavatam, or abhyasa, just like abhyasa is abhyasa yoga is practice. Abhyasa literally means repetition. Abhyasa in Bhagavan makes clear the previous statements. Krishna is clearly shown to be Swayam Bhagavan by Bhagavatam, whose feet are respected hundreds of times by all other scriptures with the help of other texts such as Gita, Gopal, Tapani Upanishad, and other scriptures. Other Puranas also state what Bhagavatam states. What's that? That Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. For instance, Brahmanda Purana says that the name of Krishna is Shukavag Amrita Abdindhu. Or the name of Krishna is the moon arising from the ocean of nectar of Shukadev's words. Interesting. It's Brahmanda Purana speaking about Sukadev speaking Srimad Bhagavatam about Krishna, and the name Krishna is like the moon rising from the ocean of nectar. Since it has been shown that Krishna is Maha Vasudev, it follows that Baladev is Maha Sankarshan. Got it? Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, Aniruddha. But the original Maha Vasudev, Balaram is Maha Sankarshan. Whatever form Krishna attains, his associates should attain corresponding forms. Thus, it is correct to think that Balaram is incorrect, to think that Balaram is some Avesh avatar. What does an Avesh avatar mean? Empowered. Yeah, Avesha. So some powers, Shaktis, or Vibhutis, some opulences, some strength, something that's from Krishna is invested in someone. That's an Avesh avatar. So it's incorrect to think of Balaram that way. It is seen by the descriptions of Krishna and Balaram that they are similar. And here's a whole list. From chapter 8, this is when they're little boys. Krishna and Balaram, with the strength of their legs, crawled about zigzag in the muddy places of Braja. They're little crawling children. Chapter 8. Chapter 23. The Brahmanas then came to their senses and began to feel great remorse. They thought, quote, "We have sinned, for for he has denied the request of the two lords of the universe who are engaged in spreading human pastimes. That's the wives of the Brahmanas. The wives fed Krishna, and the Brahmanas, understanding how exalted their wives had become after serving Krishna that way, they felt remorse that they were so stubborn, so thick-headed. Chapter 38. Akrura then saw Krishna and Balaram in the village of Braja going to milk the cows. Or chapter 43. The two mighty armed lords shone splendidly in the arena. That's they're walking into the wrestling arena of Kamsa. Commentary again. In the world, the sun and moon are described together. The sun and Venus are not described together. Thus, in Harivangsha, in glorification of Vasudeva, Krishna and Balaram are compared to the moon and the sun. Examples. Two exalted personalities beautified the cow pasture with the impressions of their feet, which bore the marks of flag, lightning, bolt, elephant, gold, and lotus. Thus, Balaram has the qualities of Krishna, not of Prithu and other Avesha forms. His glory is described. This verse. My dear Parikshit, that Balaram killed Dhenukasura is not such a wonderful thing, considering that he is Bhagavan, the unlimited, and the controller of the entire universe. In him the entire cosmos rests, as cloth depends on its threads. The meaning is clear. Shukadeva speaks the verse. That's Priti Sandarbha. The Srimad Bhagavatam is very advanced literature, isn't it? Are you? I'm unaware. Is anybody here aware of any literature that gives such detailed descriptions? Scripture gives factual, revealed, detailed descriptions of the personality of Godhead, his abode, his energies. Not just, as Prabhupada would say, not just that God is great, but how great he is, and his various energies and how they work, and his relationship with those energies, and his interactions with his associates and his abode. And there's no such literature. And then the statements by our acharyas, primarily they rest on their vast knowledge of the scripture, and they're just restating what's the knowledge of the scripture. And they also have some direct realization that comes from their samadhi, or their total absorption in the subject, or the object, Krishna. They have realizations about Krishna that they express that are consistent with, not inconsistent with, the statements of the Vedas. So of all the Vedas, let's do this. The Vedas are said to be a desire tree. And desire trees, by definition, they yield whatever it is that somebody wants. If you want bubblegum, desire tree can provide you with bubblegum. Like anything. Desire trees can provide anything. And there's a procedure, in the Vedic procedure is by proper mantras and offering of sacrifice unto those in charge of the necessities of life. So that therefore there's a very large section of the Vedas dealing with that. Namely the Karmakanda section that gives necessities. And, there's a lot of different necessities, and so there's a lot of different procedures for yajnas. Making sacred offerings through mantra into the sacred fire, and then the demigods are pleased and they manifest necessities. And it works. It's a real, desire trees are real things. And then there's levels of attainment in this life, and then after this life, and then the Jnana Khanda section deals with achieving liberation. So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But even beyond liberation, is there something beyond liberation? Yes. What's beyond liberation? And that's the invitation to be engaged in transcendental loving service to that source of everything, matter and spirit. And that portion of the Vedas that deals with that specifically is the topmost. And amongst those topmost literatures, you can say literatures in the mode of goodness that teach about the Vaikuntha realm and activities in the Vaikuntha realm. Topmost amongst them is the Srimad Bhagavatam. We got a little bit of a sampling, but there's, in Tattva Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami gives many examples, like many, of statements within the Puranas that honor the unique and very special elevated position of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here's a nice example. A really nice example is in Padma Purana, which is one of the Puranas in the mode of goodness. There's a whole section, Bhagavat Mahatmya, and it's specifically just describing the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and reciting and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Today is Thursday, right? Wednesday. So I think it's Saturday evening. It's somebody wants as a topic hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Saturday evening. So in Saturday evening, we'll see. There's some pictures. There's a whole section taken from Bhagavat Mahatmya from Padma Purana on the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a really wonderful story, and there's many others in that section. But it's a wonderful story, just honoring how exalted it is to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's not just the Bhagavatam is praising itself. It's all the other Puranas are praising it. And whether they praise it by name, as it does in Padma Purana, they praise in principle that literature which does what the Bhagavatam does, and in the power and potency, just like we're reading in the read just this morning from Uddhava Gita, where Krishna is saying to Uddhava, those who have faith in and regularly hear and chant my pastimes, activities, and describe my form, that minds become completely cleansed of all contamination, and it's a pathway for achieving perfection in life. Just what we're doing. It's such a simple thing, but there's such potency. That's circling back, describing the potency of the sun, and where does the sun get its potency? From the personality of Godhead. Balaram is the personality of Godhead, and we're hearing about his activities. I mean, one of them in the Dhenukasura story. I think because the next 3 evenings are other topics than 15th chapter of 10th canto. I think what I'll do, whenever the next time, Monday evening, whenever the next evening, I'll make it a point to read the description that's far more elaborate than here, from, as I recall, it's Harivamsa. It's a really wonderful description, where the names of the different cowherd boys and how they pick him up at Dhenukasura and throw him to the ground and punch him and hit him with sticks and kick him and this and that, and they pick him up and throw him some distance. He lands on his head. He's unconscious. And he wakes up and he comes back again, and Krishna whirls him around and throws him, and he lands on his head on Govardhan Hill. Because remember, that's a distance. It's 8 miles from where they are, the Tal Forest. 8 miles. And he becomes unconscious. Anyway, it's really a very detailed description. But, Balaram is in the center still. He gets the glory. And then all the other, his buddies, they come out. And the cowherd boys are strong like Krishna is. Generally, they don't exhibit that strength, because they like to see Krishna exhibit his strength. But they can defeat Krishna in wrestling. So they got to have strength. They have strength. They're powerful like Krishna is powerful, because he invests them in power. But it's a pastime, and it's relieving Vrindavan from that demon, Dhenukasura, and his buddies, so it's multiple demons, and entitles the Vrajbasis to go and take what's natural for them to do, take what nature produces and enjoy the fruits. It's a weaving back and forth between transcendental and seemingly ordinary. That's like little boys doing like little boys do. And then there's the transcendental, and it's the mixing of the two. It's a little bit, it's something, same thing happens in Ramayana, where at sometimes Lord Ramachandra is speaking and behaving in a transcendental way, and then sometimes it just instantly moves back to speaking and behaving as if he's a worldly person, lamenting and this and that. It's rasa. And you just have to get used to it. He's enjoying, and it's sometimes like this. It's just like waves in a river, and sometimes the waves go up, and sometimes the waves go down. Sometimes the waves intersect with other waves, and sometimes it's very calm, and sometimes it's very turbulent, and waves of a river. With all variety. But Krishna is at the center, and thus, because Krishna is at the center, is ecstatic. Even when the waves go down. Not only when the waves go up. It's ecstatic. The cowherd boys, they're not daunted when some big demon comes. The parents, they feel very apprehensive. Because they're parents. They're feeling very protective. Because remember, the Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are, the eldest is 12 years of age. So you think of somebody that's less than 12 years of age, and they're facing some difficulty, and you're a parent. Or you're not necessarily their parent, but you're feeling parental affection towards that child. So if you don't like that mood, then don't become a parent. Because it's part of parenting. And if you're in the spiritual world, if you don't like that mood, then don't become the assistant of Mother Jasoda Nanda Maharaj. We have this kind of milquetoast idea that Vaikuntha means there's no anxiety. But Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj, they're in bliss, but they also have abundant anxiety because of parental affection. But it's transcendental. It's an ecstasy. Ask them if they want to trade their rasas with somebody else, and there's no way. They have that kind of love for Krishna. And the other elders have the same love for Krishna, although they're not the, so to speak, biological parents. They have the same love for Krishna that Nanda and Jasoda have for Krishna. When they're doing their household duties, they feel that they're doing it for Krishna. They know that when they're preparing lunches for their boys, the boys trade foods, so they're going to make something that Krishna is going to taste, as well as feeding their sons. It's immersion. But the boys, they don't have that kind of... There is one example. There's two examples that are referred to where Balaram feels apprehension. In fact, they faint when Krishna is in the mouth of Bakasura. Just seeing Krishna in that situation. He isn't not swallowed by Bakasura, but he's in his beak. His whole body is a giant baka. And they faint. And Krishna sees them faint, so he pops out of Baka's mouth and revives them. And when he finishes Bakasura, they're like, yay, Krishna did it again. Another nice example, it's going to come up for the Chinese devotees, we'll speak about Krishna's marriage to Rukmini. And it's a big section. It's going to take 3 parts to cover it. 3 1.5 hour sessions. But when Balaram hears that Krishna is going to go in a chariot solo, not with an army, and that the persons in King Bhishmaka's kingdom, they're geared up. They've got their armies, they've got their soldiers, they've got their... And he's concerned for Krishna's safety. So he brings a whole Yadu army, because he wants to protect Krishna. He feels a human emotion because it's an ecstasy. Our Acharya's comment, because it's right there in the pastime. He's concerned for Krishna. He knows perfectly well. He's omniscient, as is Krishna. That Krishna is all powerful. Now, the cowherd boys don't know all that, but they don't have anxiety for Krishna's safety. But sometimes Balaram feels that feeling. And otherwise, he's just like when Balaram sees Krishna in the coils of the Kaliya serpent. The other Brijbasis, they're in big anxiety. Balaram's just smiling, understanding he's just having fun. And with his powerful arms, he stops Mother Jasoda from entering into the Kaliya lake. Or he stops the residents of Vrindavan from entering into the sea when Krishna has gone to rescue Nanda Maharaj from the abode of Yamaraj, from abode of Varuna, yes. But sometimes he feels that emotion as if he's human. It just moves back and forth. Because it's enjoyment. It's not delusion like we experience. It's enjoyment. It's very mysterious. And how would we have an understanding of these things without the Bhagavatam and without our Acharya's assistance? It'd be a puzzle. I'll share one more thing. This is about hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Saturday night preview. One devotee shared with me that she grew up in Kerala, and her mother or grandmother, I guess it was her grandmother, read Bhagavatam for hours every day, but not the Bhaktivedanta purports, just read Bhagavatam, and she loved it. She was immersed in the Bhagavatam. Like some people read Ramayana, they read different things. She read the Bhagavatam, for her whole life, several hours a day. And then her daughter went to school and went to college in America and got married in America and met Hare Krishna devotees and purchased a Bhagavatam set because she knew her grandmother really liked Bhagavatam. And so she, for some occasion, she made a gift of Srimad Bhagavatam to her grandmother, Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. And she went and visited their home after some time. And her grandmother was just like over the top with how happy she was to receive this Bhagavatam, because she said, I read it my whole life. I had attraction for it, never understood it. And now I can't stop reading it. It's so wonderful. So what to speak of, all these commentaries that our Acharya, I'm spending time reading commentaries by our Acharyas that just add so much. It's profound. It's way up there, because we're way down here, and that's way up there. But that's who we're serving, who we're, trying to be engaged in service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There he is, with the fullness of his pastimes, and enjoying with his associates. And of course, this is at a certain age, at a certain stage of his pastimes, chapter 15. 89 chapters in 10th canto. And it continues over until early parts of the 11th canto, like his discussion with Uddhava, part of his pastime. Okay. Try to catch the Saturday evening class even if you can't be there. It's a nice one. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Maharaj, this when Lord Nrsimhadev was trying to kill Hiranyakashipu, he gave a chance for Hiranyakashipu to fight for some time.
Yeah.
And same way, like when Lord Ramchandra and Lord Lakshman also was fainted by a weapon of Indrajit in the war. And similarly here, Lord Balram gave a chance for this demon to kick him. So these create an anxiety in the mood of the devotees, right? So why do they create the anxiety like that?
Well, in this particular case, it said he was showing the Kaura boys he's a small fry. Nothing. Like a fly. Nothing. Everyone was afraid. He's nothing. But when with Lord Nrsimhadev playing with Hiranyakashipu, it was likened to a cat and a mouse. The cat seems to enjoy playing with the mouse before chomping the mouse. So he was playing. Now, and the demigods are watching, and so it's another ecstasy because it heightens their feelings for the Supreme Lord. Finish him, finish him. Lord Ramachandra, I don't know how our acharyas commented on all of that. I'm sure there's commentary. But, giving Hanuman some service to let Hanuman show his valor and power and the physician, give him some service. But those who see Indrajit and Ram, and the two times they were in difficulty. But then the wise Vibhishan saying, Jambavan saying, no, he's not. There's a solution. He's still breathing. Everything's okay. So he gives everyone a role to play, and the secondary rasa is peaked like anything. For stimulating of love and giving service primarily. Okay?
Hare Krishna. How do we be pleased?
How do we please Krishna?
How do you please Krishna?
How do you please Krishna? That's your question?
Yes.
What pleases you? If somebody that you know calls your name and smiles, you feel something, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So where do you get that tendency? It comes from Krishna.
Yes.
When you call Krishna's name and smile, that's how you can please Krishna. It's very simple. Here's another one. You're chewing on something. So supposing you offer something that's very tasty to Krishna with love, not just because it tastes good, but you offer it with love. And Krishna likes. That's how you can please Krishna. You know the story from Mahabharata when Krishna went on a mission to try to make peace with Duryodhana and the Kauravas. But when he went to Hastinapur, Duryodhana had offered that please come to my home and I'll take my meal and take your meal at my home. Krishna refused, said, I'm going to go to Vidura's home. And when he went to Vidura's home, Vidura's wife was so thrilled. She lost her mind. And she offered, there's different versions, but she offered banana peels instead of bananas. Now, if somebody offered you a banana peel instead of a banana, you might say, what are you doing? But Krishna, she offered with such love that Krishna accepted the banana peel. Now, there's another version that says she offered something very simple like porridge. And Krishna was very happy, not because it was yummy, but it was offered with love. So that's how you please Krishna. Offer something to him with love. So think of something you like to do, something that you like, and then think how to offer that something that you like to Krishna. Maybe you like to sing. Do you like to sing?
Yes.
So Sing for Krishna. That's how you can please him. Okay?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Mentioned about the story where Krishna's brother goes, because of the parental anxiety, he goes with the army to protect him, right? So anxiety is the one, at certain points you don't know what decision you are making is right or wrong.
Right, that's life.
Yeah, but you said the anxiety will not go away after you reach certain point or not. So how do you get the peace? No.
Make Krishna at the center and you'll get it. Because even when Krishna is at the center of anxiety, so let's just say, because it's a common thing that comes up, parenting, you're concerned with something or other about some children, your children or others' children or something like that. Now, if you can make Krishna at the center of that anxiety, it's easier said than done, because we're in the bodily conception of life. So we think more about the body than we do think about what's inside the body and the well-being of, and the spiritual elevation, along with the care, the physical and emotional well-being of that child. But if you put Krishna at the center, then that Krishna connection lifts you. The Krishna connection lifts you. And you get better intelligence how to deal with your own internal emotion, what to speak of the situation that's outside of you. By that Krishna connection. That's where you get peace. When you have that, it's read Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verses, I think it's 18 through 20. And Krishna says, one who achieves this, even in the greatest calamity, one remains peaceful. By that, the mind fixed upon him. The calamity is going on, and you feel it, you see it, and you feel something, but you don't get caught up in the swirl because of that connection. The peace is within because of that connection, and the intelligence of how to deal with your emotion and how to deal with the situation that's prompting the emotion. Intelligence comes from Krishna, and he gives the intelligence how to do those things. It's making the Krishna connection. You can say it in reverse. Why do people suffer? The flip side is, how to overcome the anxiety or how to find peace.
But in the example you have given, Balarama went with the army. It's for a war, for its or to protect. It's how we see it. He went with the army. It may be for a war or it may be for the protection. But in the Balarama's perspective, he is going with the army to protect Krishna.
Yeah.
But on the other perspective of the other kingdom, it is seeing like they are coming with the army. It's all perception of how you look at it, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Because he was happy. Balaram powerful, and he was happy to use his power for his brother, for Krishna. He was happy. There was some anxiety, Krishna's safety. Although he's omniscient, Krishna doesn't have anything safety to worry about.
But it's the perception. How
yes.
can you say what's right, what's wrong?
That's another question. How to understand right and wrong. I mean, I'll point you to a place where Krishna speaks about that in Uddhava Gita. Then it takes lots of discussion. What Krishna says, when you act according to your actual position, that's the standard of what is right. When you don't act according to your actual position, that's wrong. But then requires some explanation. That's quite subjective. It's not an absolute standard of right and wrong. The absolute standard is that which is for the pleasure of Krishna, that's right. That which is ignoring Krishna, that's wrong. Turn your back on Krishna, that's wrong. Face Krishna, that's right. One's light, one's darkness, and the other is light. Whatever is in that world of darkness, it's wrong. That's the absolute standard. But the relative standard is you have your actual position, and you act according to your actual position, according to the standards of Dharma, and that's right. You act contrary to your position or this, because what's your position as a spirit soul that has a particular set of circumstances in your life. You have a female body, you have a husband, you have children, you have responsibilities, you have a dharma that goes along with the package. That's not my dharma. If I tried to do what you do, that would be wrong. If you tried to do what I do, that'd be wrong. You have your... So that's the relative. And then there's the absolute. And it requires some discussion, but that's just speaking in terms of principle. And it's elaborated upon in Krishna's discussion with Uddhava, but that's a definition that he gives, right and wrong.
So we are saying like we should not judge on others' station because you are not in their shoe.
Yeah, but we do have the standard of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and ultimately Shastra, because Guru and Sadhu follow Shastra. So that's the standard for us. That's the lens through which we look at things. But through the lens can also say, subjectively, you as a mother and a wife and a spirit soul in a female body, you have certain needs and certain duties. And so, that's not me. So, but from Scripture, there's an understanding of how you handle those situations. And to handle those, that's what's right, according to the indication of Scripture. So, yes, it's subjective. Or as you say, it's a matter of your experience, your perception, your perspective. But there's an absolute standard from Scripture, even with relative things. We take guidance from Scripture in those things. Anyone else?
Maharaj, I have two questions. The first question, so when these eternal associates of the Supreme Lord, they experience some emotions, it looks like, is it like Yogamaya's function that it amplifies those emotions for them to feel that bliss or increase the love for Krishna?
Well, not exactly. Their love for Krishna is just undergoing different shapes or forms or qualities. The steady position doesn't change. It's sthai bhava, doesn't change. But then there's moods. I was giving the example the other day of a river. There's moods of a river. In the early morning hour, it's something. In the midday, it's something. And at night, it's something. And during the course of the rest of the day, it's different. Anyway, so as with there are different moods in a river, there's different moods amongst the associates of Krishna. And they're tasting differently according to different situations and arrangements of Krishna. And you can say those are that variegatedness is due to his Yogamaya potency, but there's a steady ecstasy that's always there. And then there's variations of that theme. whatever their particular rasa of Krishna is. So it's stimulating in different ways, but the primary rasa stays the same. Next.
Thank you, Maharaj. From Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear that there are 2 quadruple expansions, and you mentioned about Mahavasudeva and Mahasankarshan. So where do they fit in?
Where is it written, you're asking?
No, where do
Where do they
is it one
fit
of
in?
those 2 quadruple expansions, or is it are they something different?
Yes, something different. So Balaram and Krishna are not part of that Chaturvyuha. Balaram and Krishna in Vrindavan are not part of that Chaturvyuha. But then in Dwaraka, Krishna and Balaram are there, and Pradyumna and Aniruddha are there. That's in Dwaraka. And then their expansions go to Vaikuntha. That's the second quadruple. Okay?
Thank you.
Online, anything? You want to do some you going to do the online, or he is? You don't have your phone. What's life without a phone? You must be feeling pangs of separation or something. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, this question is from Seshireka Mataji.
Louder.
Question is from Seshireka Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, anxiety is a very negative emotion.
Yes, it is.
How do we understand Yashoda anxiety for Krishna?
Because it's a transcendental emotion, and therefore not negative. The negative anxiety that we feel is here, and that anxiety there is ecstasy. That's very simple. No, you don't have that experience. Your experience is the other kind. But, they're experiencing ecstasy. No doubt about it.
So, this is a 3-part question, Maharaj. Okay. Another 2 parts. Does she enjoy being anxious?
She enjoys her relationship with Krishna, which includes that anxiety.
In my understanding, spiritual emotions are always pleasing.
Which one?
And the 3rd part is, in my understanding, spiritual emotions are always pleasing, even though it's negative. Please explain.
Well, it's not exactly, even though it's negative, it's a heightening of love. That's what it is. If your idea of it comes back again to what's good and bad, what's right and wrong. That which increases love for Krishna is right. And that which increases love for Krishna may include, if you have parental affection for Krishna, some feeling that you're calling a negative feeling, but our acharyas call it an ecstasy. It's heightening their love. They're feeling protective. It's not like when the twin Arjuna trees fell over. Boy, are they in anxiety. And boy, are they thinking about Krishna. And they know exactly what to do. Because they're very trained in scriptures. Immediately, they chant mantras for protection. They call the brahmanas. They do this and that. They do the Vedic thing because it's the right thing to do. And, they end up moving from Gokula. I mean, they do things that are responsive to the safety of Krishna. But yet you, all of us, need to understand it's different. It's not a negative emotion. It's an emotion. It's not a negative emotion. In our experiences, looks really bad. That's negative. Takes you away from happiness. That's negative. And theirs is ecstasy. It's part of the mystery of rasa in relation to Krishna. And even the happiness, it's not like your happiness or our happiness. It's something else. Next.
Next question is from Amara Mataji. It's like previous question.
Louder.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I asked this question a few days back, but class was over. If it is already answered, kindly forgive me. My question is, how can we understand how much faith do we have in Guru and Krishna presently, and
I answered that.
what can be the next step of faith?
I answered that question. Go back and listen to the answer.
That's my best. That's it, Maharaj.
That's it. Okay. One more in the back. We have people online that want to hear what you have to say. You have a good, strong voice, but online people doesn't carry to them.
You answered to Yashoda's anxiety towards Krishna, right? Like, is it a motherly anxiety
Oh, yeah.
you're talking about, or
Yeah, it is. It is. But it's not the motherly anxiety that you know. The motherly anxiety you know is a reflection and diminished and distorted reflection of the motherly affection of Mother Jasoda.
how to control that anxiety? For example,
That's another question.
yeah.
Well, that's kind of what you asked before, and the answer that I gave, control. The best is you go to transcendence. But supposing you're not there yet, what do you do about anxiety? The instruction that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, well, it's a roadmap. It starts with tolerating, withdrawing your attention from the temporary, and investing attention in the eternal. Well, supposing I can't do that. Well, then you practice living your life in the quality of goodness in general. And that may take some time to live a life in the quality of goodness. But when the quality of goodness is there, then you naturally become tolerant. Because that's the advice that Krishna gives. Tang satiksha subharata. Tatiksha. Tolerate. So when you recognize that this thing that I'm feeling anxiety about, this is stress management 101. It goes like this. Life threw rocks at me, and it hurts. Then I'm feeling some anxiety about the rock and the hurt. And, whatever that is. And I've got a feeling I'm dealing with. So then, stress management 101. There's different things you can do. One thing not to do is just like take the rock and throw it back. Or just take the rock and just hide it somewhere like it's not there. That doesn't take care of the anxiety. Doesn't take care of the rock either. So there's different recommendations. Take the rock, toss it up in the air a few times, and consider what your options are. You go into a mode of goodness place, and you become reflective. And what are my options? In practical terms. And then you have, when you go into that reflective space, options that weren't able to think of when you were in the reactive space appear. You practice it, it becomes second nature. Here's my options. And then you decide based on, what's going on inside. And if you're in the mode of goodness, you have the options become broader. And your ability to act on to make the selection from the menu becomes better. And more likely you do something that's beneficial for you and for others than just, toasting out. Keep good association with people that can guide you when those things come. there's a whole thing to, if it's something that repeats and repeats and repeats, that's something that may need some special attention. So there's so many things to say about anxiety and stress and negative emotions that arise. I think that's it. One last one. On the menu list, if you become a host or hostess of one of these gatherings, overcoming negative emotions, the art of meditation. That's one of the on the list. Did anyone select that one? The art of meditation, overcoming negative emotions. There's dozens of recordings. There's like a 4-part seminar, and you can hear. It's very practical.
Guru Maharaj, you're mentioning about how the cowherd boys are also equally powerful like Krishna to fight the Dhenukasura. Is it though they are
equally powerful, but they're powerful.
They're powerful. So is it like though they wanted to, they can fight, but still they wanted to see Krishna fighting them? Is it still? It is also like Krishna's Ichha Shakti that they are wanting to glorify Krishna.
Yeah, it's part of their relationship. They like. He knows they like, so he does. He throws Dhenukasura up on the top of a tree. The boys go, yay!
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So the anxiety which you have it while doing the service, it may be a Krishna's service at temple or trying to do service to Guru Maharaj, and the anxiety which you get how do we analyze that, understand that?
I think I've just asked you to, same as the response to this other question. There's a 4-part seminar on overcoming negative emotions, the art of meditation. Listen, you get an 8-hour answer to that question. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.